Okie dokie. So we're still in the reviews, and it's the review of lesson 131 and 132, which is lesson 146. However that works. My mind holds only what I think with God. No one can fail who asks to reach the truth. My mind holds only what I think with God. I loose the world from all I thought it was. Now, to me, the key word in the review of lesson 131, no one can fail who asks to reach the truth, is the word asks. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact there are many, many seekers of the truth out there, and there are apparently many, many paths that one can utilize in order to find the truth. But it is in the asking, because this is an ask and you shall receive continuum, wherein which what's being offered to us in A Course in Miracles is different than seeking the truth on your own with the mind that thinks it doesn't know the truth, which leads us directly into I loose the world from all I thought it was, because most people think that the world is a bar to the truth. The world is somehow preventing you from finding the truth, when look, that can't be any further than, it just can't possibly be true. If in fact the world is an illusion, it can hide nothing if you ask for the truth rather than the illusion. And in the loosing of the world from all I thought it was, what we are ultimately releasing it from is from its ability to be a distraction from our desire to find the truth and discover who we are in reality, because it's not solid. It's a collection of thoughts that are being held together in memory for the purpose of denying us access to the truth, which we apparently forgot, and yet waits in our mind, which holds only what we think with God. So by now, I would think if you're following along and doing these lessons the way they're laid out, you're beginning naturally to have the world be loosened from all you thought it was, because as we read these lessons, and if perhaps you're also reading the text and the lessons at every turn are telling you something about the world that perhaps you never thought before. It's telling you about the not unreality. There is no world. Central thought this course teaches that there is no world. The world I see is of my own making. World I see has nothing to do with reality. It is of my own making and does not exist. Therefore, if it is of my own making and does not exist, and we accept that to be true, and we accept it has nothing to do with reality, then by let's call it deconstruction for a second, by the deconstruction of our thinking, we can see the fact that we've made the world. And if we made the world, we can certainly unmake it in our minds simply by allowing the foundation for the world to be questioned as we ask, rather than try to tell and demand, as we ask what knows the truth to help us have it revealed to us, rather than making demands on the world to give us something that's not possible for it to give us, because it isn't the truth, it isn't reality, and yet we've been approaching it as if it is reality, and the laws that we seem to live by within it are necessary in order for us to survive within a world that we would rather not be in anyway. or be participating in, and yet there's no way out of the participation in it, except through the going back through our own minds and hearts and utilizing a technique of asking rather than making demands and telling the world off or telling it what it is. That's what we do. We tell the world what it is, and we get the reflection of what it is we tell it. And sooner or later, you come to the conclusion that it's not working very well because number one is it's not able to sustain you in your desire to be happy because it's not real based on what real is. I mean, if we're talking about real, and the Course makes distinctions, and the Holy Spirit uses the distinctions and comparisons to help us understand and give us the motivation and modus operandi by which to heal our mind. So if we're saying reality is infinite, whole, perfect, and eternal, and we're looking at a world that is anything but that, then by reason, and there's some great passages in the Course that talk about introducing reason into the ego's thought system, and we're not talking about utilizing reason from within the ego's thought system. We're talking about utilizing reason based on a divine logic, a divine criteria for reality in comparison to what we've thought the ego was offering to us. And when I say ego, again, remember, we're talking about the body's eyes. The eyes of the body are showing us things that have no reality because the eyes themselves that we're looking through have no reality, nor does the body that we're utilizing to think that we're looking using eyes to look through. However, everything, the world and our body, can keep gentle pace with our awakening when we learn to utilize our mind for a new purpose. And the new purpose is loosing the world from all we thought it was. And what we're seeing, we're using what we're seeing and allowing a new way of understanding it, not based on what we're seeing and how we're seeing, but based on the divine nature of a rationale that's provided to us by an intermediary, an intercessor, to help us come to some conclusions about the world and free our mind and begin to ask, well, what's true of something that knows? Not ask the world. The world is just going to give you back your question by trying to prove it's real. So there's no sense in asking the world. And there's some passages in the Course that tell you ask the one thing in the world that doesn't know what it is, what you are, and you live within the asking of the false to prove the falsity is true, in order to think you can come to know something outside of the range, the domain of the ego where the falsity exists. So no one can fail who asks to reach the truth. The key is asking. We must learn to ask, not of the world, but of reality. And what we ask, I mean, the answer, the Course talks about the Holy Spirit being the answer, the light of understanding. So first we forgive ourselves for utilizing the world against ourselves in our search for truth. We realize through an act of admission that we've been looking in all the wrong we've been looking for love in all the wrong places, and finally we've decided it's love, peace, and happiness. It's an old song by the Chambers Brothers. We finally decide that love, peace, and happiness is the only thing that's going to help us experience what we want, because that is the sum total of what we want. We want love, we want peace, and we want happiness, and we would like it without opposite. Well, obviously, the world can't give us that because the world is the opposition to that, and within the world, there's an indication of there being an opposite to love, peace, and happiness that allow us temporarily to lose that love, peace, and happiness. So that's not the love, peace, and happiness of the reality, but is, however, an indication that we do know and we can see that that's what we want. Now, when we begin to loose the world from its ability to prevent us from knowing that love, peace, and happiness within an eternal reality can be ours without losing, there are many things that rise up into our mind because we're so used to losing it, and we base the finding on the losing and the losing on the finding, and it's an endless circle that goes around and around and around and keeps us on this roller coaster of emotional upset, always wondering after we found what we think we're looking for when in fact we're going to lose it, because in the finding here in space and time, due to the temporal nature of everything, is the loss of it. And it becomes a very depressing proposition. But my mind holds only what I think with God, and no one can fail who asks to reach the truth if they're asking for the truth that is being held in the mind that I share with God. At that point, in order to do that, we begin the process of loosing the world from all we thought it was by, the application of forgiveness for ourselves for for getting in our own way, in the recognition that we've been the ones. I but do this to myself. So I don't think there's any need to belabor the lesson. I just think there's a need. There's no need, really. You're always getting the result of your own thinking. If you're living in a condition of need and you're sick and tired of it, and lack seems to show up, no matter what station of life you're living in, then you may want to take a look at these lessons, because they'll help you understand why that is so, no matter what it is you seem to get or have or do, that maintains that condition. It holds sway over you in all stations of life. It's simply because what's lacking is the willingness to allow our minds to be returned to their natural state, wherein which there is only love, peace, and happiness, and we're sustained by the love of God, which gives us the happiness, and then we can live in peace because there's no opposition to it. Now, that's entirely possible to find right here, right now, because it's not in the world, it's in you, and it's what you actually are, beyond your identification of yourself as a body. So you're not, in a sense, I don't know how I could do this, because there it is right there. Meaning, in that sense, I'm not a body. I'm a condition of awareness. And when I become aware of the reality of the kingdom, wherein which I never left, I can use the body as a serviceable vehicle of communication, both to prove to myself that it's right by utilizing the laws of the kingdom, and help spread the good news of the reality of it. Now, not everybody's going to take it as good news when they come to recognize that at some point in time you got to give up the world, or at least have to be willing to give up the world in the way in which you've constructed it. I know when you tell somebody to give up the world, that brings all kinds of things to mind. With give up the world because there is another world that I want, and the way to give up the world is through forgiveness, which represents the ability to find reality where there is no loss. So, you can't stop with just give up the world. There must be an alternative within the mind that's made alternatives to reality. And for a moment, the Holy Spirit will use your thinking to introduce to you, when asked, an alternative that no longer has an alternative, and you'll know it, you'll experience it, and that will be the continuing motivation for the willingness to undergo the process of undoing and loosing the world from all you thought it was, because you've asked to reach the truth. And your mind holds that truth because your mind holds only what you think with God. So, practice these lessons in all your affairs. You'll know when to apply them. Besides the formal disciplines, besides the formal enactment of the lessons as we're asked to do it in the morning and the afternoon and in between, you'll feel it in your heart, and then your mind will understand what these lessons are really for. And in those moments, you'll recognize that it is right then and right there where you can enact a new decision upon your own thinking that allows you to see that you don't have to do what you've been doing over and over again and getting the same results from the doing of it over and over again. There'll be a moment offered to you sometime today. And because we're training our mind, we'll remember this lesson and remember to apply it as a way of choosing once again for something that we've always wanted and asking once again for something that we've always wanted, but have not been able to find in situations that have felt similar to the one that we find ourselves in. And like dominoes lined up the minute you ask in that situation as it presents itself to you, and you feel the weight of how many times you've been to that spot. When you finally utilize these lessons and ask, when your mind is actually questioning what's going on, something spectacular will occur to you, and then you'll see exactly what this has been talking about and exactly why we've needed to train our mind in this systematic way and constantly be on the ready for those moments when a new decision can be enacted upon our heart and our mind to present to us, to give us something we've been looking for, but perhaps have not known exactly what it is because we've been looking for it in all the wrong places. And finally, where we find it is within ourselves as the being that God created us to be. You're a being. You're a soul. You have a reality. The world can't hide it from you if you lose the world from what you thought it was. And then it simply becomes a place where you're learning to be a passerby and look at it with the new eyes, the new forgiven eyes you've allowed yourself to be given in the asking for the truth.